Hello friends, and welcome back. I'm Shannon Makes, fresh air crafter by day, circus artist by night, and this week we are back briefly in our apartment in Montreal because our balcony is about to get a makeover. Not just because it's spring and it's the perfect balcony weather, but also because our landlord is a jerk and his neglect is making a mess of our apartment and, more importantly, endangering my dog's health. Before we get into the why though, let's go take a look at the balcony in question. So voila, here is our balcony. Now it is admittedly very much in winter mode at the moment, but let's take a look at what it is we've got to work with, especially now that the sun is blissfully behind a cloud and I don't have to squint anymore. So it's honestly a really good size for a small Montreal balcony. We've got room for a nice big table, easily sits 4 people, which is good because we are 4 in the apartment. And then over here, we've got this rather utilitarian looking storage shed, which is honestly quite practical, again, for a small flat. And then lastly, around the corner here is this long corridor, which serves as our emergency exit in case of fire. It's also where our roommate is storing his bicycle because while Montreal is generally a very safe city, it's not so safe if you're a bike. Also, the downstairs neighbors get a way bigger balcony, but honestly, we get more sun, so I think we get the better deal. Some highlights include lots of railing real estate here for putting in planters. We've got a ton of room for this big table and plenty of chairs to seat friends, although of course none of them match. There's usually a very cheerful, colorful umbrella that sits right here, gives lots of shade, and honestly, on a nice sunny day, there's at least one of us out here with a cool drink and our computer or a book to read. We've also got a grill, of course, for summer evening barbecues, and then normally in this corner, we've got the classic Montreal compost and recycling bins, except that today is actually recycling day, so they're currently down out in front of the apartment. Okay, so I've got this wonderful huge balcony, lots of sun, lots of space, plenty of room for plants. What's the problem, you ask? The problem are these floors. They're painted this fun bright blue color, but here's the thing. Our landlord refuses to maintain it, and when he does, he paints it with this cheap interior paint, which basically means that it never sticks and it just starts flaking off. And the last time we got him to actually repaint it, which was last summer, he didn't even bother flaking off all the old paint before he repainted it. He just slapped a new coat of paint on the old coat of paint, which means that now it's flaking off twice as fast and with twice as much paint chips coming off. This means that every time somebody goes outside and then walks back in, they track in with them tons of flakes of paint. It's still early summer. We've only had this door open a couple days this year, and already our apartment is full of blue paint. It's everywhere. I've swept it off the floor. I've had to vacuum it off the couch multiple times. But the last straw for me personally was when I had to brush it out of my dog because she was absolutely just covered in it. It was embedded in her fur and it was so disgusting. Like, she's a dog. What is she gonna do? If this door is open, you better bet she's gonna be outside in the sun, smelling all the smells, looking at all the squirrels, splooted on her tummy, taking a sun bath like a dog is wont to do. And then every time she does that, she is just absolutely covered in flecks of paint, and it makes me so mad. Swear to God, I did not stage this. This literally just illustrates beautifully my point. You're such a good dog, okay? I love you so much. You don't deserve this. So instead of fuming internally about it, I decided let's just do something about it. And what is the solution, you ask? IKEA balcony tiles. Now, these are not sponsored or anything. In fact, the reason they caught my attention is actually that they're on sale right now. But with these, you know, I can take them with me when we move out. I could sell them secondhand, and that way my landlord gets exactly 0 benefits from my labor. Plus, I like the fact that they're real wood, and then that means with proper care, they should hold up fairly well over time. More on that later, but for now, let's take some measurements, figure out how many tiles we're gonna need, and take a field trip to IKEA. Now our balcony is a bit of an odd shape, so I kind of just had to break it down into a bunch of different rectangles, measure the dimensions of those rectangles, and then use the square footage calculator on IKEA's website to see how many packages of tiles I'd need. Ooh, that's gonna hurt. Off to IKEA. But first, a word from today's sponsor, because this portion of the video is brought to you by Foreo Sweden, and specifically the UFO 3, the newest product to the UFO collection. Now, I've been using this cute, compact little device for a couple months now, and it's already become an essential part of my daily routine. Made from ultra-hygienic silicone, this deep facial hydration device allows you to enjoy sophisticated spa technology in the comfort of your own home, which is probably a good thing because honestly, when was the last time I actually left home to go to a spa? It increases skin moisture levels by 126% in just 2 minutes and leaves you with a radiant complexion all day, week, and year. My favorite feature is definitely the thermal therapy part, which is not only incredibly relaxing and just feels so luxurious, but the gentle heat also helps the active ingredients from your mask to absorb deep into your skin for optimal hydration and results. I've been trying a few of their different masks, and my favorite so far are the H2 Overdose and the Call It a Night with ginseng and olive oil. Now, I'll be the first to admit that I've always struggled with establishing daily routines, especially pre-bed routines. My days are long and often packed with really physical activities, so by the time evening comes and I've had dinner, I tend to crash, and I crash hard, often at the detriment of a good evening routine. However, I've found that the UFO 3 is actually so enjoyable to use that it's actually helped to encourage good nighttime hygiene routines. Click the link in my description to get 30% off the UFO 3, and the first 50 people to use the coupon code on screen will get an additional 10% off. So there's never been a better time to try the UFO 3 by Foreo Sweden. Trying so hard with the French. Now, one does not simply swing by IKEA, pick up exactly what one wants, and leaves. No. There are several essential elements to an IKEA trip, including buying a froyo as big as your head, locating the goofiest object names in the store, trying out all the various furniture, and of course, judging all of the sample setups in the showroom. Okay, where do we want to start the judging? Honestly, where can I get me one of these fake windows? He has so many clothes. This bathroom has no personality. Art. I'm not gonna lie, the herringbone's kind of fun. Absolutely giant kitchen though. Banana. There we go. Whoa. That's what we want. This is my favorite section, all the textiles. Bye-bye, IKEA. Well, nearly $600 later, after taxes and everything, we've got a car full of wood tiles and a few extra fun additions. The one I'm the most excited about is obviously this super fun rug. This, I had no idea that IKEA even made something like this. They had just a giant stack of these right before you hit the checkout in the bottom area of IKEA, and they were on this massive reduction. So originally they were something like, yeah, $120, and this one was only $35. Super fun. It's an interior exterior run. It's on sale because it's a outgoing product, like they're discontinuing it. And I love, well, first of all, I love that this blue here, you can't really see on the camera, but it's basically the exact same blue as what's out on our balcony right now, which I never had a problem with the color. I think the color is actually very cheerful and festive. It's just the toxic paint flakes all over the place that I don't love. So in love with the color, also in love with the fact that this is probably gonna be a nice little like visual separation from the wood tiles and the wood table. So this is definitely gonna be going underneath the table area for the same price as one of those packs of wood. I was like, heck yes, sign me up. So let's get these bundles outside and start laying some of them out. Maybe see if we're gonna need a jigsaw, because it has occurred to me that while we have tons of power tools, we've got the jigsaw, we've got a chop saw, we've got a circular saw, they're all in Nova Scotia. So either we're gonna get really lucky and not need to cut any of these tiles, or we're gonna have to get really creative. Or I'm just gonna have to go buy another power tool. That wouldn't be the end of the world. So I think my plan of attack is I'm gonna start by laying down one row of tile right here that does the whole length and backs up against this railing here, and that is gonna give me a better idea of how the tiles are gonna interact in this corner, and if I'm gonna have to chop down some tiles to do the corner here, and then also the same thing over here, like if I'm gonna be able to get an even number of tiles in this section, or if I'm gonna have to cut down some. Everything's a little bit unknown right now, but once I get going, I think things are gonna become clearer, that's for sure. So there is one thing that is potentially gonna cause some problems, but I think it's a little bit too early in the process to know for sure, and that is that all the different boards that make up our patio back here, they're very uneven. And that's because, well, originally some of them were completely rotten underneath, because of course they were. We finally got our landlord to like change or shore up actually the worst ones, you know, the ones that would sink down a good couple inches when you would step on the wrong corner. But it was a shoddy job and done quickly, and they're still very uneven. So I'm hoping that that's not gonna cause any problems as I like assemble this and start to lay it out. Are they gonna not snap together because the floor is uneven? I don't know. We're gonna have to see. So far, this is where I am. Gotten that much done, and I'm loving the look, and just gonna keep going and hope that this doesn't become a problem later on. Okay, I've gotten enough laid down that it gave me a pretty good idea of how I'm gonna situate all these boards. So let's take a look at what we've got going on here. So over here, I can definitely get away with doing 3.5. So that's where I need the little half. And that's okay because it means that I can just cut through the little plastic between here. I don't have to cut through any wood, and that will just kind of conveniently fill that hole right there. So then we're good. This corner works out nicely. And then if we go over here, we're gonna see that the current layout I'm using leaves me with this little gap right here, but actually it's okay because that gap works out pretty well with the natural break in this is two separate boards right here. So there's already a seam and a bit of like a hump. So it's okay, once it's lined up, it's gonna be pretty much right on that seam. I think that's what we're gonna do. I think we're gonna leave it like that, and then that way I don't actually have to worry about cutting anything. question is, can I still get the shed door open with the additional height that we've just put on the balcony? Looking good. Well, that would be a yes. What do you think about all this? Oh yes, look at that. How do we feel about this, huh? How are we feeling about our new floor? Approve? We have noticed a new addition to our balcony this year, and that is that the neighbor's roof is now host to a nest of baby birds. I think they're starlings, which actually they're maybe potentially invasive to this region, but they've built a nest just across under the neighbor's roof, and I keep seeing the mom and the pop bringing little worms to feed their little chickadees, and every time they do you can just hear the little babies going cheep, 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 and it's absolutely adorable. I love spring. It's looking so good. Check it out. I'm basically at the point where I've laid down all of the hole tiles, and now I'm waiting for the fussy bits, the bits that have to be cut. So over here I need to start cutting these tiles in half, and then also over here is gonna get a half tile. Very pleased about that. It's very efficient use of tileage. This tile here, I've got to cut out a section so that it can slide in for that railing support. And then in the corners here, I actually have to trim this upright piece of wood so that I can slide the tile underneath it. Which means I'm at the point where I'm going to start needing some power tools. Fortunately, I did kind of foresee the situation happening, so I already went ahead and put a post on the Facebook group for our local alleyway, the one right behind the apartment here, because yes, of course we have a Facebook group for our alleyway, and I found somebody who was happy to lend me their jigsaw for the day. So I think I'm gonna swing by and pick that up. It's just a few houses down, and then while I'm out, I'm also gonna swing by the local hardware store and get some varnish so that I can try and protect this lovely floor that I just dropped $600 on. So yeah, let's go grab the dog, grab the leash, and go for a walk. En fait, je cherche quelque chose, n'importe quoi qui va juste comme allonger leur vie, effectivement. Ouais, c'est ça.
Ça, c'est vraiment une teinture.
Ouais, c'est ça, une teinture comme telle, je veux vraiment... Parce que la couleur, je suis contente avec la couleur.
Puis toi, c'est à l'extérieur.
Oui, c'est ça.
Tu vas rire, hein?
Ouais, c'est ça. Ouais, ouais. Well, friends, that was a very successful outing. I swung by the hardware store, got my varnish, exterior varnish, marine grade. Should really hold up well and protect those tiles, give them a little extra longevity. Then got the jigsaw from the friendly neighbor who was very excited, very cheerful, happy to loan me his tool, and threw in a plenty of spare blades. Then On the way back from the hardware store, I found this cheerful little guy, which I'm super excited about because it's the same exact colors as my favorite umbrella that I always put out there every summer. So it's gonna be perfect for if you have like a cold drink and you wanna set it on there, or if you're having a little barbecue night and you will need a hot pad. It's a tile, so it's perfect. Next thing on the list is going to be whipping out the jigsaw and cutting those tiles down. I'm gonna start with the really easy cuts, just cutting the tiles in half, which I'm actually really thrilled with the way that this layout turned out. I only have to cut tiles in half for the most part, which did also allow me to get like a lot extra footage on this side here. Fantastic. And then at the end, I'll go ahead and tackle the trickier cuts down on the far side of the balcony. Then we can wrap up the day with applying a coat of varnish, let that dry overnight, and then come back maybe tomorrow and start in with some plant life. What do we say? Sound good? Let's go. So these tiles did cut down pretty easily. All I had to do was pass through the thin plastic grid on the back of each tile, and it went pretty fast. Although I did learn quickly that in order for the tiles to properly click together, I did need to go back and trim off all of the little nubbins so that the plastic was perfectly flush with the edge of the wood. Sometimes I did this with the jigsaw, other times with a pair of pliers, or even a sturdy pair of scissors did the job, just kind of whatever was on hand. For the more complicated corner, I quickly made a cardboard template that I used to carefully cut out and mark where I'd need to cut into the tile so that it could pass around the railing support, since I'd actually need to cut into the wood for this specific section. Then it was time for varnish. Now, this is the internet, which means that everybody and their aunt will have opinions on whether IKEA makes a good product, whether I should even bother varnishing these tiles, what type of varnish I should use, and all I can do here is speak from my own personal experience of buying IKEA wood products, which is that I have a pair of balcony chairs here that I bought about 6 years ago, and the first thing I did when I got them was varnish them. And between the varnish and the fact that I do bring them inside every winter, they're looking pretty good and they've held up really well. So this is a process that's worked well for me in the past, and it's gonna be what I'm using again. And it's also a process I would recommend to you too if you're looking to preserve your IKEA wood products, or any wood products really, in the great outdoors and the elements. Oh my god, how fitting is it that in this video about redoing my balcony because my landlord's a jerk, does my landlord show up as I'm in the middle of putting the varnish on the tiles out there, unannounced, and fully intending to come on our balcony to climb up on the roof. And I was like, horrible timing. So we're gonna see what happens. It's not that I have a problem with him doing the work. It's that legally you're supposed to give me 24 hours notice. And if he had contacted us at all, I would have been like, hey, let's set a timing for this. And I would have, worked around it when varnishing. Not thrilled. Not thrilled. Okay, balcony worker landlord update. They decided that they could access the roof from the stairs. So they set the ladder up in the stairwell to go on the roof. They did what they needed and they seem to have left. So the varnish wasn't bothered, everything is okay, but I will say that the main reason they did not actually come on the balcony is because I briefly talked to the worker and I said, hey, I'm in the middle of varnishing this. Can we do something else? And he did something else. So thank you, anonymous worker, for being kind and not ruining my varnish. No comment on the landlord. Once the landlord had left, the rest of the varnishing went pretty uneventfully. As you can tell, I've worked out a technique with a roller and a brush where I would use the roller first to get quick, full coverage, and then I would go back in with the brush just to smooth out the varnish and get rid of any air bubbles or lines. Now I know the idea of using a roller with varnish is considered sacrilege in some circles, but honestly, 10 out of 10 recommend as a time-saving technique. At some point, I'd kind of worked myself into a corner and I had to finish up with some rather interesting contortions, and it did feel more like I was playing a game of Twister than varnishing a balcony, but honestly, just another day here at Shannon Makes. Okay, so I didn't actually do too much work yesterday because it was raining, but that did give me a good opportunity to check out my varnish job. Well, I guess it's a good thing I decided to varnish it yesterday. Does seem to be doing the job though. Very hydrophobic. With the floors all done, we're officially in phase 2 of the balcony makeover, the soft goods, a foliage, adding color and literal life to the balcony. So I'm heading down to McGill University because there's a plant and seedling workshop going on and my roommate invited me to be her +1.
Station McGill.
Yay, plants! Now it's time for phase 2, the decoration part, everybody's favorite part of the whole renovation process. And I think between the plants that I got at the free workshop yesterday, the plants that I picked up at the fruiterie next door, and the handful of plants that I managed to scrounge just for free around in my neighborhood, I think we're gonna be pretty well set on plants. However, there is something amazing happening out of my balcony, and I think I need to show you what's going on. Mother Nature is saving me some pretty pennies here because somehow there are a handful of these plants that have survived the Montreal winter up here on the balcony with zero help from me, and yet somehow they're still alive. Like, look at this. I picked these plants based purely on vibes and then left them out in the elements all winter long, and yet somehow some of them are still alive. Absolutely incredible. Love that. And so I started the planting process, and if you pay careful attention, you'll notice that not a single planter looks the same or matches, and that's because, much like the balcony chairs, they were collected from curbside donations and garbage piles around the city.
Si les plantes étaient à donner. Les trois?
Ouais,
ok, c'est quoi? Je suis en train de magasiner.
Ok, vas-y, prends, c'est à donner.
Super, merci beaucoup.
In fact, come to think of it, before I installed the IKEA tiles, the entire balcony, including the vibrant yet very visibly branded umbrella, was furnished for free. So I guess if you look at it that way, $600 for the entire balcony really isn't that bad. as they say, it was time for the finishing touches. And you know it's a good sign when your rug matches your outfit. The rug was somehow exactly the right size for the space, like down to the very inch. So I did a little happy dance to celebrate it. In order to appreciate the transformation, let's take a look at what it looked like before. A satisfying transformation, and hopefully one that will last for many years. I love the richness of the wood tiles, the bright pops of color from the discount rug, and the plants are not only vibrant and cheerful, but in a few weeks they'll start producing fruit and herbs to snack on. Plus, most importantly, the flaking paint is completely covered, so people and dogs alike are free to come and go as much as they please during the day, and our apartment remains clean and free of toxic paint chips. If you enjoyed this video and you're in the mood for more IKEA renovations, be sure to stick around for next week for my bedroom revamp based entirely around a thrifted IKEA duvet cover.
3, 2, go. Okay, one more time. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, I just wasn't centered. Yes!
Wait.
No! Sure.